Hey folks, my name is Rian Doris. I am the co-founder and CEO of the Flow Research Collective. We're a neuroscience-based research and training institute. We've trained executive teams from companies like Facebook, Deloitte, Accenture, Audi in the neuroscience of peak performance and flow state. I founded the company along with New York Times bestselling author Stephen Kotler, who you may have seen on the Joe Rogan Experience. You may have read one of his books. And I started working with Bryan about 8 months ago now, after spending about a year looking for a really powerful, transformational coach that could bridge and really interact with me about the distinct but critical areas that I needed work on. And they were specifically leadership, psychology, mindset, and business. And Bryan has this incredibly unique ability to go deep across those distinct dimensions. I had this persistent frustration where I was finding and interacting with and meeting coaches who sort of knew a lot about leadership and were useful there, but they didn't understand business, or at least not my business. Or maybe they understood the mechanics of business, but they had no understanding of my own internal psychology and how to communicate with employees or get past limiting beliefs. And Bryan's experience and ability to play in those domains is a 10 out of 10 in each one, which creates this incredible sort of synergy where they're all interlocking and you're leveling up in leadership because of something specific that you're diving into with respect to the business piece. And it has been absolutely transformational for me to be able to work with Bryan. I probably hired 5 to 10 coaches and burned each one out after about 3 months with incredible dismay. And then I finally found Bryan, hunted him down after hearing all sorts of incredible things from friends of mine who were coaches of Bryan. And the experience has just been absolutely second to none, by far the best coaching experience I've ever had. And I can tell and feel that I will work with Bryan for as long as he will have me as a client. And that's likely going to be many, many years. So I could not possibly recommend Bryan more. I'm constantly singing his praises to all my friends and referring them to him and wishing that he was able to clone himself so that everyone I know who runs an 8 or 9-figure business could work with him. And what's been interesting as well is learning specifically about coaching from being coached by an amazing coach. In the past, when I was working with coaches, I have now come to understand that I wasn't really being coached. They were kind of talking at me about things or telling me different things about their domain of expertise. But being coached by Bryan and working with Bryan has actually taught me what coaching feels like and looks like at the absolute elite apex level. The way in which Bryan's able to ask the questions that just stop me in my tracks, cause me to go silent sometimes for over 5 minutes before I have a paradigm shifting insight that results in the next 3 months of my focus shifting or something like that, through to Bryan's understanding of change and how to elicit change in a very deep way and pinpoint the small hinges that swing big doors for me specifically and work on those. And then the third piece that's been very profound for me in learning about how to coach from being coached by Bryan is the intentionality. He will, pause me, have me reflect on something and go into this very, very effective sort of meta communication within a coaching session where we'll identify something, pull back, work on it, and then drop back down into the specific challenge that we're focusing on and continue forward. So all around, I could not possibly recommend Bryan more strongly. I don't think I've ever worked with anyone who I have recommended more strongly to others. So if you are considering working with Bryan in any capacity, you got to do it. Honestly, I come off every call with 5+ paradigm shifting, permanently impactful takeaways. So if I had to boil it down to 1 or 2 takeaways, the first one is that, if you find the right coach, you're going to come away with far more than 1 or 2 big takeaways. It's difficult to even pin them down. I'm not going to give one or two top ones, but I'll just list some that come to mind. But there are literally dozens and dozens of these. One is how to communicate with team members as a leader or as an executive. It had been driving me nuts for years, just banging into walls with my communication and not understanding kind of basic communication patterns. And Bryan just simplified it down so incredibly and actually drilled how to communicate as a leader with me. And since I've been doing it, it feels like having this superpower where I can actually just speak to people in a way that makes them feel great and produce incredible results rather than getting stuck in my head and just kind of, feeling like a bull in a china shop when interacting with my team. That's been a huge one. Just to give another really, quick one off the top of my mind, the concept of good revenue and bad revenue is something that I've shared with my whole team. They all talk in those terms, and it's fundamentally shifted the way in which we think about almost every single decision we make. Almost every significant decision we make now comes through the filter of, will this add more good revenue? Because ultimately good revenue is the only scalable form of revenue over the long term. So that's just been incredibly profound. Hiring, my understanding of recruitment and hiring leaders specifically has been completely changed. Bryan boiled down the entire assessment process for leaders to one question that has made me clear on why hires I thought were going to work out incredibly in the past have not, and has allowed me to hire new people who I would not have previously decided to hire with immense results. And it's actually given me a clear understanding of what defines a leader within a team. So that's been incredibly powerful, and I could keep going for hours, literally, especially if I would pull up my notes. So I'll stop there. If I was a coach and I was wanting to succeed as a coach, I think the thing that I would do, which sounds obvious, but most coaches don't do it, is become the most transformational coach I could possibly be through producing, incredible results for clients. And as a result of that, never losing a client, or at least being able to work with a client continually for 3 to 5 years, growing organically through referrals and not even having to worry about marketing or even having a website. I actually found Bryan through some back channel because he didn't even have a website, but it didn't matter because the recommendations were so strong that I hunted him down through a back channel, and also so that I could keep clients forever, get clients through referrals, and also so that I could command extremely significant coaching fees because of the value I was delivering. So if I was a coach, I would just try and master my craft so that those three things would emerge. And I think the fastest, most pleasant and effective possible path I could imagine to doing that is working directly with Bryan, because Bryan has done that at a level that I've never observed before. And I'm in the coaching world and ecosystem. And with respect to those three things, which are really the dream for coaches, keeping clients forever, growing organically through referrals, and commanding extremely strong fees. Bryan's done that at a level I've never seen before, and I would want to learn from the person who's done that at a level that is the highest, if that was my goal. So I would absolutely jump on the opportunity to work with Bryan to elevate my own coaching if I had the chance.